Hello there.
General Kenobi!
It's been just over 2 years since I posted my first review on this channel, and looking through the reviews I've done, I decided that it would be a good idea to reflect on what I've rated and do a sort of confirmation check on my own content. Starting out with reviewing, especially using a number system, needs to be done right, especially if you want reliable continuity as a reviewer. After all, people are well within their rights to question why a small game that lasts 20 minutes could receive a higher rating from a larger game that you can get hours and hours of content from. Obviously, there are multiple factors that go into reviewing, and all my reviews are done on both contextual and comparative bases. A number rating is a quick and easy way to judge a game. If you watch my YouTube videos, clearly you're subject to more information, and the number rating becomes more negligible as you see for yourself the performance and the finer details. But for Steam Curator, with a limited number of characters, a number rating can go quite far, which is why I'd like to take care to ensure it's accurate. I'm going to try and make this an annual thing, should I be able to keep the momentum of my channel going. But this video will be an opportunity for me to re-rate any previous reviews I've made that I feel I may have misjudged or that I feel didn't fit correctly comparatively with the others. So, as part of my reassessment, I looked at the types of numbers most of my reviews were getting, which ratings I was giving out most frequently. That also led me to consider my parameters. As I said, I use comparison as part of my ratings, so the games that I currently have ranked at the top and bottom ends of the spectrum are very important to me. Initially, I was quite cautious about throwing out high or low numbers, since I was more inexperienced with the type and quality of content you could find in free-to-play and the sort of variation you could get. But now, having done more reviews, it's given me a bit more perspective. The lowest mark I've given so far is a 2.5, and the highest a 9. As you can see from the stats, there's a cramp around the 7 to 8.5 out of 10 area. The 2.5 to 9 window that I've got that most of my games seem to fall between only leaves a variation of 6.5 marks out of a possible 10, meaning I lose 3.5 marks, equivalent to 7 tiers, in my ranking process. Now, you can also see quite a lot of gaps at the bottom, and that I've also somehow forgot that the number 6 exists, which gives me a little more manoeuvring room, but they're below the 5 out of 10 divider at the bottom. Steam works on a recommended or not recommended basis, so reasonably my midway point is 5 out of 10. That means I can't shuffle any games above 5 below it because I do think they're okay. 5 out of 10 is a grey area, distinguished only on my Curator reviews. I consider it the top tier of my not recommended and the bottom tier of my recommended simultaneously. I need more space at the top of my list, as there are good games within these tiers that I blocked myself off from giving a higher score to because I set the ceiling at 9. Focusing on my top end parameter, the highest rating I've given is a 9. Since I'm working on a 0.5 scale, that's another 2 tiers clear above my top games. Looking at my reviews for them, particularly Lake of Voices, I really struggled to find things to criticise. Genuinely, the biggest quibble I had with that game was the repetition of backgrounds, and to me, that's quite weak in terms of problems I could have. Which begged the question, what could a game possibly do to achieve a 10 out of 10 score? It would have to be perfect. Completely and entirely perfect, but that's very rare. Games can always be improved and changed, but it's important to remember the product that has been presented to you is what you're looking at. If a game that's borderline flawless is still 2 ranks, not even 1, away from full marks, then it's fair to say that practically no game will be able to reach top score. That makes this 10 out of 10 rating obsolete, and therefore 9 out of 10 becomes 10 out of 10 by default. By this reasoning, I'm upgrading my score for Lake of Voices to a 10 out of 10. I know there's a chance later that I may find a better game in its field and comparatively, but I don't see that being a very likely chance. I will subsequently upgrade I Love You Colonel Sanders to a 9.5 out of 10. At the bottom end of my spectrum I have my 2.5 rating. Since I've not been able to find a game I liked less than it in a couple of years, yes, sporadically, of doing this, it's safe to say I can drop the rating. It wasn't that good of a game, really. It was one of my first few, and as said, it was a stab in the dark still at that point, as it was my first low rating. But the game had loose story, JPEGs everywhere, and its major content was irrelevant paper clippings. However, I do feel potential for worse games than this. I don't rate games I can't load, since that would be unfair, but it's a lot more feasible that there are worse things out there in the free-to-play cesspool. So I'm re-rating Charlotte 1.5 out of 10. I will also be dropping my rating for God Awful Clicker to a 2 out of 10. Now, something else I think is worth considering, and what I do often target in my reviews, is replayability. I try to get an hour's worth of content minimum out of all the games I play, if they don't naturally end prior to that. However, there are some games that I can get drawn into for much longer. Some of them burn out naturally after this longer period, but some of them have a very long duration. That doesn't mean I'm automatically going to get hooked to it, so surely then that should mean if I do get hooked to it, that has some meaning. In a long-winded way, I'm trying to say I think it's worth factoring in if I have any excessive playtime on any of the games I've trialled for reviews, and if so, what effect that's had on my experience, if any. If I've experienced more of a game and find it gets worse over time, I feel that that is something that should be considered, equally if it gets better. Looking at my Steam stats, Paladins and MapleStory 2 have clearly won me over. Some of my quarrels with Paladins were with limited maps and unbalanced players, and actually Hi-Rez have added more maps since their updates and have balanced the game out better. They're continuously updating the game with new characters, and though there have been a couple of downsides like them getting rid of the daily reward and making it a bit harder to get gems for chests, those are a lot more minor compared to the improvements. It's a lot of fun and it's better than before, so I'm upgrading its rating to a 9 out of 10. MapleStory 2 is another one that's grabbed me, and it grabbed me hard, but unfortunately this game has been deactivated. May the 27th, 2020. I nearly cried when I heard the news. I could talk forever about this game. I was going to tell you all about playing at level 50 and above, about the cooler weapons and armour, about the new sets of skills that you get that are way more powerful than the previous ones, the access to PvP activities. I was going to tell you about the pets, the completely new map, the really difficult dungeons and the fresh storyline, but I'm sad to say that is no more. I'm sorry I found you so late, MapleStory 2, you were good to me. I'm going to have to pretty much eradicate my rating for MapleStory 2. I'll probably leave the review up, but there's no point. I was going to change the rating, but there's sort of no point doing that now since it doesn't exist anymore. As for the middle ground, these are the changes I would like to make. I'm dropping Relic from a 6.5 to a 6. I'm dropping Lunacy from a 7 to a 6.5. I'm dropping Time Drifter from a 4 to a 3.5. I'm well aware that it's very likely a lot of my games will still end up being rated between 7 and 9 out of 10. It's a safe spot for games that are more than mediocre but aren't anything incredible. All these movements just open up the top of the board a bit more and allow me to iron out any choices I made when I was still unsure and just stabbing in the dark that don't really fit now. Hopefully, if I do make another video like this, it should be shorter, since this one includes me sorting out ratings I made right from the start when I had nothing to go off. I won't be re-releasing videos to match up to these re-rates, however I will announce the score change in the title. These marks will also be changed on my Steam Curator page. I'd like to stress again that these numbers are simply for quick assumptions, and obviously this is all just my opinion and the deeper information about the games will all be included in my videos as normal for you to base your own opinions off. It's important to keep in mind context as well. I may rate large games like Paladins at similar or lower levels than small creator games, but that's because I can't fairly compare a game made by a company of a multitude of creators with excellent planning and funding resources to a game made by 4 mates in a bedroom. They're never going to match up, and it would never be fair to rate small games lower against games made by big companies. And in fact, games with small creator bases that perform well actually get themselves more credit than companies because they've managed to make something so good with lesser resources. To the best of my ability, I try to keep my comparisons in genre as well, since that makes them more compatible. And last but not least, I'd like to thank you all for your support of my channel in these first couple of years reviewing. Thank you to a couple of creators of the games I reviewed for your kind comments and for taking the time to watch my videos and interact with my audience. Thank you to my subscribers for being kind enough to, well, subscribe to me and my random content. This channel's a great pastime to me, and to be able to share it with you all is awesome. And always remember, I'm open to suggestions for games and about my videos. I want this channel to be mutually beneficial and help us all in our crusade to kill boredom in the cheapest way possible. Thank you for watching.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time.
Hey there, hot stuff. You doing anything later?